get through this tournament, but his opponent, it's his chance to finally get some good news on the board for this year. Introducing in the bottom right position, the blue Protoss player representing Ting in the United States of America. He's Neeb!
And in the top left from Team Liquid, the veteran from Norway, representing all of Europe, this is Snute!
Crowd coming alive as this grand final begins. You guys have been awesome all weekend long. So many people packing in to watch StarCraft. Thank you for being here with us in Montreal, and thank you for tuning in to these awesome games, as well as everybody online. We've had so many good matches, especially from this young man, this Protoss player he's done it all so far in this tournament with style and ease, Maynard.
Yeah, both players have obviously reached the final end here, the tip of the mountain, the summit, if you will, but you know, Snute is covered in blood, and he looks like he's fought a terrible battle, but Neeb he's got a little bit of spatter blood here and there, maybe on his wrist a little bit, because he has very cleanly dispatched his opponents.
I mean, when you destroy players like True, sometimes you can get covered in it as well, but with the way that he's done it, it's looked so good. We've seen the variety. We've seen him take it with the gateway pushes. We've seen him play the Stargate. We've seen him play the late game, even if it didn't work quite the way he wanted it to versus an opponent like Scarlet. Of course, she put up a great fight in this tournament as well. He has still shown that range, that skill, and just that unrelenting, perfect execution and that killer glare at the end of every game when the camera goes to his face. Like, yeah, I destroyed you, I'm gonna do it again. I'm not thinking about anything other than just winning.
And Scarlet and True have been those aggressive Zergs as well, whereas the guys brought up on the desk a very, very important fact is that this is going to be a different style of play here. Very rarely will you see Snute go for a big early game all in. Maybe a Roach Ravager timing, but he is generally a guy that's very comfortable playing the late game. If Neeb wants to go Sky Toss like he did against Scarlet, that is probably going to be Snute's comfort zone.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to consider, because when you look at some of the opponents that Snute went through that were on the aggressive side of the spectrum, his series versus Kellizer, a lot of it came down to Snute bringing it to the late game, bringing Kellizer into his reality and making him play that slow, long game where he can starve him out. Neeb is not an opponent that you can bully around. He has to be extremely careful that he doesn't get blasted by one of those Phoenix Adept pushes. He doesn't get blasted by one of those big immortal timings. He has to be so on point, because if Snute's plan is to take this series long, well, he's gonna have a hard time unless he can really do something special to stop Neeb's perfect execution.
And the builds are underway. We have Stargate opening here for Neeb. Snute putting his first 100 gas into speed, second 100 gas into Pneumatized Carapace for Overlord speed as well. So he's going to get as much scouting information as possible. Very hard for Neeb to deal with these speed Overlords until he gets his Phoenixes out. And he is the Protoss that we just saw in versus True. Does get Phoenixes, does like a depth play, and does like that multiple Oracle with Gateway combination synergy that has been so strong and really has been a staple of his PvZ all the way back to Austin.
Yeah, the Oracle play, of course, has become extremely prominent in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup. Not surprised to see Neeb open up with that. The Overlord scout is not just important for being aware of what's going on, but he really has to keep tabs constantly throughout this game on what Neeb is doing, because as we can see, the Adept make his way to the natural, but a second Stargate is already coming in, Maynard. It's going to be a commitment to the Sky Toss play.
And Snute does have a speed Overlord, so no excuses to not see this information here. And Neeb is already starting to produce Void Rays, so this could potentially be a much longer game here on Odyssey. Does Snute try and punish Neeb as he powers ahead into that super late game army? There are vulnerabilities, but Neeb is so good defensively when he wants to be. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Not in position. The Lings are going to be able to slip inside of the main base. A critical error out of Neeb as the Zerglings get on top of this. If they want to pick it off, maybe go for the probes instead. He kind of bounced between those bases a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no Mothership Core.
When you go Stargate, you often, the Mothership Core is quite delayed, and the Oracle has to come all the way back to deal these Lings. Just one Adept is not enough. Probes off the line, also not enough. This one Adept finally needs to get back to work here. But the Oracle should be able to laser beam these Lings down, but even if they all go down...
Devastating start. This is exactly what Snute needs, because even if he doesn't kill him here, the big thing that we were just discussing, Maynard, is it's not that Snute needs to win the game in this early phase. Snute just needs to slow Neeb down so that he can reach that mid-late game phase where he shines. And, well, killing 8 probes at the start of the game will definitely set you up well for a position like that.
A lack of gateway units for Neeb means that the third's a little vulnerable. He does have multiple oracles though, and a void ray. Should be able to deal with these lings without taking too much damage. The third nexus will go up largely uncontested. Oh, Neeb is actually not going straight into mass void ray. He's going into mass oracle to start things off with, which has actually been hitting the meta in PvZ in Korea. Seeing it a lot in SSL, GSL, etc., etc. That's we'll see how well Neeb does with this versus Snute. There's no doubt seen it once or twice before.
Yeah, that Void Ray is going to poke out, try to maybe see if there's any overlords on that map that it can clear through, but also we can do a little bit of poking, distraction at the main base. Maybe he wants to check if there was a fourth hatchery being built on his right side. The oracles will make their way across. The mothership core is finally being added, as well as another Stargate. So perhaps the mass oracle is what's on the menu for game number 1 of this grand final. Snute just needs to keep his cool. He's going for a little bit of a counterattack at that wall as these oracles kill some of the queens, but defense from Neeb seems to be solid as he kills a lot of the queens out in Snute's base.
This is actually getting snowballing a little bit.
The Void Ray chipping in too.
Yeah, the Void Ray getting damage done. Another Overlord going to go down by the looks of things, even though it has speed. An Oracle gets picked off the back here, but again, Neeb has 5 more where that came from, with multiple on the way. Soon to be 3 Oracles at a time being made here for the American Protoss. And Snute, he's going to react to this by getting a Hydra Den and an Infestation Pick. Going to lock down those Oracles with Fungals and then take them out with the Hydras.
Yep, the big cash money play there. Use that range, catch those fast moving oracles. However, if he's not able to get that grab, if he's not able to deal with the oracle threat, it can grow and grow, and then the next thing we're going to be seeing out of Neeb is this potential switch into that Doom Golden Armada carriers coming out, which so many players struggle against once you reach a critical mass. Counterattack tries to go towards this third base, but nothing doing. The mothership core is in position.
Neeb locked down tighter than a snare drum. The fourth a little vulnerable. Speaking of vulnerable force, this one's not looking so great. The Void Ray...
No Queen's here to transfuse it. Yeah. The Void Ray just focused down this spore. He doesn't care.
Absolutely not. Has to evacuate it completely. Going to lose a lot of drones here on the retreat as well. Just a single queen, but with multiple spore crawlers, can engage the oracles for now. Other queens need to come down the creep and help out. It gets 1 oracle pickoff, but not without paying a heavy price of 12 drones.
And it's nice to just chip out the rest of the energy on those while another link counterattack hits. The depths are warped in to defend. The Void Ray does get snapped up, so once the oracles are out of energy, they will no longer be able to work away on this base. And the queens are here to push him away. More and more oracles are pouring out, but the Hydralisk production has begun, and the Lings get inside the natural, going towards the main base again. Yeah,
they sure do. Still not seeing a mothership core, and the Lings are getting straight into the probe line. They're going to take out, looks like maybe an Adept being warped in here, but the probes being pulled off and drilled through the Lings to make sure that they are as surrounded as possible. The Lings not going to get too much done here, but he is going to see that third Stargate and also the extra production of the Twilight Council and the double forge for Neeb.
Those oracles regaining their energy, preparing to potentially have to do some level of defense. I mean, with 11 oracles on the field, going up to 12 now, the Hydralisk count is not there to deal with this in any way, shape, or form. 7 more are coming out, but you already mentioned this when the Infestation Pit started, Maynard. The Infestors, they are starting to come out. The Fungal will be a critical play to catch these units and allow those Hydras to abuse that longer range to pick them off.
And there generally is a charge follow-up as well, and we're seeing that immediately as I say that from Neeb. Charge and +1, double upgrades, in fact, going for the Zealots. And saving this 4th hatchery is very, very critical for Snute, but will he be able to this time?
Well, he thought about it for a second there. Of course, the damage output of oracles is pretty nuts. Tags, he's the Infestors. That is not something you want to get snagged by at this point in the game. I do believe they have enough energy for a Fungal. So
yeah, all of them do, in fact.
Must be very careful.
Absolutely. Losing the air army here is extremely bad for Neeb, and it's very easy because it is a glass cannon army. The Hydralisks are going to have +2 attack, which is very, very high DPS output. And once they're gone, the Gateway army is really quite pitiful against all these upgraded Hydralisks.
Indeed it is. He's going straight for the ship weapons, the Protoss Air, or excuse me, the Protoss Air armor. So he wants to make these units a little bit more durable before he thinks about a transition. Of course, attack upgrades don't affect the Oracles, so he wants them to be sturdy, but it looks like Snute does not want to give him time of day. Charge is not ready yet. Banelings are being morphed. The Hydralisks are here with Infestors, and he's going to try to press the issue at the third base of Neeb.
Neeb's actually taken the air army out of the equation at the moment. He's put it all the way back down here to the left of the main, making sure there's just Gateway units fighting for now, but he needs to engage this. Snute's going to force Neeb's hand here. Needs to be very careful with these Infestors. It's going to be a little bit of a micro dance here to see which player messes up first.
Yep, the Hydralisks want to bash the wall down. The Banelings want to take out the Zealots that are covering it. And Snute, he's playing this very patiently. Doesn't want to run in just yet. Neeb goes. He's spread out on the Oracles. He's going to fly straight in.
big fungals on the south here. Oracle's coming from the north as well, though. Infested Terror's going down, but with the charge flood, it seems like it's too much from Neeb.
A 360-degree surround with Oracles, Adepts, and Zealots out of the American Protoss player. 13 probes were killed, but Snoot's army has been routed as Neeb holds on to the majority of his economy, still sitting at 71 workers, Maynard. He was not hurt too bad by this push.
Not at all, and he's still producing probes back at home, so he's going to have a superior economy probably for the rest of this game, as Snoot needs to have an incredible engagement here to have any chance in game one.
Using the Oracles with these Zealots is going to provide a lot of extra damage output. Needs to be cautious. Another wave of Hydralisks come out. A lot of the Oracles do die here. A little bit overzealous of our Protoss player, as he is only building Oracles and Zealots right now.
Which isn't going to scale very well. The bigger and bigger the Zerg gets, more Infestors on the way, more Lings on the way surrounding these Zealots, but again, the Oracles can burn them so quickly, but they are getting a little bit low in energy, though, which concerns me for Neeb. If he runs out of juice on these Oracles, they obviously aren't going to be engaged the Hydra Balls like they normally would.
Yep, it's very important to have enough energy for all of the Oracles to fight together. That damage comes out so quickly. Protracted engagements are not exactly their specialty. It's about ending things very quickly because you have an overwhelming number. But 10 Oracles to 20 Hydralisks, 3 Infestors. The potential, if a fungal lands in the right spot, is there. And we also saw use of Infested Terrans, which can definitely help soak up a bit of that damage and get that extra DPS in there.
The Infestors are borrowed this time. Huge fungal on the Oracles! That's what Snoot wants, but the charge slots are getting up in his face. Does he have enough? A chain fungal from Snoot. He's got the Oracles. A brilliant pickoff here for the Norwegian server.
Oh, another one flies straight into the Hydras on the tail end of this fight. Snoot, perhaps smelling blood in the water, is getting ready to push the issue. Once again, he needs Banelings to deal with the Zealots, though. These Oracles, the ones that survive, still don't have a lot of energy. He's going to dive right on top of this before the Banelings are ready. The Oracles go on top of the Hydras, too.
Not enough Oracles, Nate. These Zealots may be enough to kill the ground army. The Infestors and Infested Terrans are helping out, and the charge lots do push him back. But that was fantastic for Snoot getting rid of those Oracles. Neeb, though, with a massive economy and the ability to reinforce.
Perfect timing to dive on that army for Neeb. If he had waited for those Banelings to finish and they kill those Zealots, it potentially loses everything here. The Oracles were not enough, as you mentioned, to deal with the Hydras. This army composition is so crucial when you're playing with this Hydraless Baneling style. The Banes keep the Hydras safe so that they can just fire away, because that Zealot damage is so powerful with that burst on the charge. The 2-2 upgrades. The Lings aren't. Well, they're going to have a tough time. They don't have any upgrades to actually fight these Zealots with. They're mincemeat.
Yeah, they are. They're basically a meat shield from the Zealots between the Hydralisks, trying to keep them alive as long as possible. This is a huge charge lot run by here, heading towards that gold base here for Snoot, which is mostly mined out, but still, this is a production facility. Losing this hatchery would suck. Snoot coming down here to deal with the charge lots, and he will, but not before the hatchery gets taken out.
Does manage to pick that off, and the rest of these Zealots are going to try to escape while another wave goes into the northeast. This base has 29 drones in it, Maynard, and a lot of minerals to mine. Not even close to being mined out. Losing this will definitely suck.
Yeah, and it will go down very easily here. Snoot's complete army position was out there in the south. His whole army
chased them into the corner.
They were all down at the south here, so a brilliant move there from Neeb, hitting him from both places at once. The Queen's also just sort of moseying on back, transfusing the Hydras and trying to be useful here. But now that there are stasis wards going down, also Neeb maybe forgetting Storm a little bit too long here. He does at least have Archons to help out against this Zerg army.
This is a very dangerous moment as Snoot has a giant army. He's lost a lot. He wants to make a push. The first stasis ward triggers, but it's not really on a whole lot. Many more Banelings will be added to this composition, and as you said, Storm not being a factor can definitely hurt things. Big Zealot counterattacks, but can Neeb actually handle the Zerg army that's at the gates?
There's not much energy on these Oracles again. Yes, he may kill some hatcheries here and a lot of drones, but can he stop this Hydra force of Snoot? He's bringing the Queens, he's bringing the Infestors. He is all in, Nate, and he could absolutely kill Neeb here if he gets it done.
This is such a stressful position to be in. The robotics facility will die too. He doesn't have anything else really added to this. He's still just building Oracles. He's adding Zealots, but they're all across the map. That Burrowed Infestor looking for a fungal, doesn't toss one out just yet, and Neeb's gonna try to fight this. The Archons with the Zealots hitting from the north, the Oracles hitting from the south. He's got a bit of a surround, but as the Zealots die and the fungals fly, the Oracles start to fall from the sky.
That's a nice round you had there, Nate. But yeah, massive attack here. Neeb
the Zealot's cleaned up back home too.
Yes,
Neeb just needs to survive, just weather the storm.
Oh, no 3-3 upgrades here if he gets rid of these forges. That's going to be nice. It's going to give him a chance really to engage. We can see that Neeb has a much larger army supply, but a lot of it is made of paper. The Hydralisks can shred through these Zealots and shred through the air units.
Yeah, it's about just whittling this down. As long as he has some production with the economy that he has, he can still play ball to a degree. He just needs to get time. He can produce an army that's capable of beating this Hydralisk force. There's no production, there's no economy. Snute, for all intents and purposes, is dead back home. He has to win here, and I don't know he's going to be able to do it.
No.
GG.
A huge whoop in, and Neeb. Oh, people keep saying Snute can't die. Well, neither can this guy. In the bottom right here from Ting, from the United States of America, this is Neeb.
He faces off against this man, starts the series down 0-1 after a decent start in that game. Representing Norway and Team Liquid, the Red Zerg, he's Snute!
Snoop Dogg! Let's see how
Maybe
he goes.
dropping some Banelings like they're hot as this series progresses.
I would love to see that. It's actually a really sick thing that came back into the meta, and you actually only saw it at the beginning of Wings of Liberty, and then you didn't see it again for like 5 years.
Well, I mean, that was like the old days. You had guys like Startail Suoshin that was like, I'm the first guy that learned how to build a Nidus Worm, but quickly fell off until they became invincible. Now we see a little bit more of that play. We've seen quite a few awesome Nidus plays in the last week. Not too much of a spoiler if you guys watched GSL in the last week. It was some interesting plays, to say the least, but it is going to be on Ascension to Ire. The map layout feels kind of similar to Odyssey, the way that you have things. Your third base is a little bit of a distance from your natural. There's no easy way to block them all off, like on a map like Acolyte, for example. And I think we talked about this. Snute doesn't cross us as the cheeser. Neeb, we've seen him cheese, but we don't know him as a cheesy player. He's more about those strong mid-game plays, using builds like that heavy Oracle style. Like the Dark Templar into Archon drop and thus forth.
I know that, you know, I feel like Snute has a comfortable place, but Neeb actually like doesn't have an uncomfortable place. Is like the way that I look at it. Like it's very hard to spot weaknesses for Neeb. There was a moment in game one when Snute fungled those oracles where he could have maybe busted him, but it's charge lots, man. It's surprising how well they can do just keeping the Hydralisk at bay. They can't stutter step. They don't have their Zergling meat shield anymore, and then that's it.
It's important to keep in mind in that last game, because he was able to take so many fights away from the Banelings, Neeb had 2-2 on his Zealots. And normally, like, okay, the attack upgrades let you two-shot the Lings, but because Snute went for the range upgrades for the Hydras, his Zerglings were actually not hurting the Zealots at all. It was just, it acts as a meat shield, but they're not adding to that damage output, and then those Lings die super fast, and the next thing you know, the Zealots are on the Hydras, and well, that's when your army starts to die. Those Hydralisks have that damage output. I mean, they're just like a ground oracle in that sense. They have the DPS, but they're very, very flimsy. You do not want the opponent's army to be on your Hydralisks.
And you'd be hard-pressed to find a StarCraft fan that's been watching all year long to see that there is a Stargate opening here with an Adept for Neeb. This is his staple, his go-to. And once again, Snute opening the same way as well, getting 200 gas for Metabolic Boost and also Pneumatized Carapace, Zergling, and Overlord Speed, respectively. And then pulling out to get mineral income for drones and hatcheries, which is what Snute lacks.
Yep, and with the extra gases being taken on the natural already for Neeb, I have to ask myself that question, Maynard. Are we gonna see it again? Will he move in with this Oracle, start up a couple of extra Stargates in the back of that main base? What is the follow-up play if he doesn't want to rush out that fast third? The Oracle, or to me, the Adept cancels the shade at the last moment. But all eyes on Neeb's base. It's going to be a robotics facility, quickly following up this Stargate.
And Snute's Overlord, of course, will see that. Overlord Speed's going to give him all the information in the world, so it's just what you do with that information that's up to the Norwegian Zerg here. So robotics facility usually can mean a couple things here. If we saw a Twilight Council, we could be thinking Archon drops. This time, could be something different from Neeb. We got a Zerglings heading on towards the natural. Neeb's locked it down. This time he's not left the Adept shade to try and plug a hole against Lings. So Snute not getting in on game 2.
Yeah, not losing 8 probes very early on kind of makes us ask the question, what happens if Neeb plays this game versus Snute and isn't giving up a couple of free jabs for the Zerg player? Where is he going to go with this? Is there's Phoenix follow-up after these Oracles, but robotics facility, a Twilight Council coming in now. Is he just going to follow this up with a big Adept play like we've seen him do before?
He could do. It could just be a Dark Shrine into Archon drop again with a little bit of a wonky tummy. Getting the Phoenix is not a surprising thing. Getting rid of Overlords is nice. And he's going for an Archon drop by the looks of things, but that's a Templar Archives. This could just be a very fast charge.
Is this?
No, Adepts, in fact. Wow.
We've seen something like this already this weekend with a bit of that Archon drop with the charge follow-up, where it was all about the Prism that did the 2 Archon drop, but then followed up with the 8 charge lot warp in on top of that. Very dangerous play to deal with. He drops the Stasis Ward that's going to trigger. That Overlord does barely finish in the nick of time. Could have prevented Snute from getting his supply up.
Yeah, that would have been annoying. Neeb's got this Prism. Snute does spot it with the Lings at least, so he does have time to react. He's already getting Spore Crawlers because he's expecting that DT Archon drop. But still, this is going to be nice against Warp Prisms that want to get a little bit too deep on the Zerg bases.
Yep, and I'm very interested to see how exactly he handles this, because the 3rd base is on the way. The Adepts are there to cover that. The Phoenix is here to push the Overlords away. Is it going to be that big Archon drop with the Zealot commitment, with that huge warp in to try and destroy this army? A lot of players use this off the back of the Dark Templar play, but having that Templar Archives this early, it's a bit, more on the gas side of things, but you do have that easier transition into Storm later on when that time comes.
You get Storm much faster, which is very important because a lot of Zergs still like to go Ling Bane Muta, and Storm's pretty good against that. Double Archon's being dropped into the main here. Roach is all ready for Snute, though, as a reaction. And he deflects it very easily so far. An attack here on the 3rd. He does have a lot of Lings.
He's giving himself options to keep the aggressive side of things going, but these Adepts are actually being worked away on by these Lings. He's going to need to warp in Zealots to defend this 3rd base, which means the Prism has a little bit less aggressive potential. However, the Archons do snag 4 drones, and they have that opportunity to keep putting on the pressure, as Snute he'll find it hard-pressed to leave his base without running into that drop coming straight back into his main.
Spire on the way here for Snute, but don't get too excited. This is probably just for a handful of Mutalisks, maybe 4 or 5, just to deal with that Warp Prism, so he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. It's very, very tough to deal with this Warp Prism just with Queens alone and Spores alone. You need to chase it down, because those Archons are just going to live forever otherwise, especially in the hands of a god like Neeb.
Yep, and the Oracles are looking for an opportunity to snag a few drones, and so they do at this 3rd base. 5 picked up. The Archon's actually back inside of the main base, and Neeb, he's so good at the game. You're like, wow, he's just migrating both of these fights at the same time. No problem. He can hit you with the harass of the Oracle. He's got a 2nd Prism on the south side of the map, so he's going to hit him from the north and from the south.
Hit him from the north and south. Overlord getting taken out here. The Phoenix getting work done. And an Immortal follow-up here for Neeb. So this is also something that's quite good against Hydralisk. When you get them up and count. Dude, imagine if that pylon went down. That would...
That's quite the Artosis pylon.
Quite the Artosis pylon indeed. Double upgrades for Neeb.
And you said it, a couple of Mutalisks are going to come out just to help get rid of this Oracle threat, to help deal with these Warp Prisms that are ravaging his bases. These 2 Archons, man, they're such a powerful unit. Of course, they even do their bonus damage to the Zerg buildings. Archons are great in this matchup.
Yeah, and
look at that, just blocking.
Yeah,
he's like, you can't build a hatch if I keep dropping stuff here. Oh, he's done it! Neeb!
Wow.
Now that's some nice micro there.
Sure is some nice micro. The Mutas will put an end to it eventually, but the Archons, of course, if he controls as well, can actually defend the Prism for a little while here. Storm, very quick here for Neeb, already halfway done. Double upgrades. We see the Snute's just getting +1 again on a single Evo chamber for his Zerg units. He's transitioning to Hydralisk. He still has Roaches, so it's worth getting Roach speed here. Mutas are coming out. Single Phoenix is not enough to deal with him. It's warping in some Stalkers.
Yeah, Stalkers, not a unit we see Neeb use a whole lot of, huh? It's been all about the Adepts and the Phoenix and the Oracles for his tournament run, but he is going to just need to push these away. There's not a huge commitment to Mutalisk, so he shouldn't have too much trouble. Of course, in that theoretical world, you're like, yeah, the Phoenix can kite very well, but without the range upgrade, it's not that easy.
Nathaniel, I have to say that was actually dismal for Snute there. That was a lot of minerals and gas when you think about it.
And the Prisms are still on the field.
Yeah, the Prism's still alive, and he didn't get much probe damage done at all.
Neeb playing a dangerous game here. He does lose 1 of his Oracles, but he still has 2 Warp Prisms. So the multi-prong harass potential is very real. A couple of Stasis Wards littered around the map, and the Baneling Nest is finished for Snute, but I do not believe he's even started Baneling Speed. So his options for getting aggressive play can be pretty difficult to micro around that force. But as his army moves across the map, the charge lot counterattack.
And that is a staple of a lot of Protosses, getting those charge lots where the Zerg is not. Looks like Snute might have some units at that 3rd base. He does. He's going to be able to deal with these charge lots without taking too much damage at all, which is very nice for Snute. And he's going to go for a big attack here, but Storm is done.
And that's the benefit of the Archon drop off the Templar Archives. He has such quick access to Storm. The Guardian Shield helping to protect these Archons. This isn't co-op. Storm doesn't heal their shields, buddy. He's eating eating quite a few of his own Storms, but another Zealot warping inside the main base, and he's just bullying this Zerg army away. Oh, the force field's locking him in, and so many Zealots just ravaging Snoot's main base.
Snoot needs to go home with his tail between his legs here. He is getting completely destroyed by this charge lock warp in. Another reinforcement here from Neeb. It will get dealt with eventually, but not before 12 probes go down. And once again, we're seeing Snoot in a dismal economy situation versus Neeb, who's over 70 probes back at home with a 4th Nexus.
This double trouble is, it is beating away at Snoot. He's got Zealots warping in on the south side again. The War Prism's still on the north side. He's constantly having to split his forces, and he wants to attack Neeb. He desperately wants to get some hits on him, but he can't. The army is bouncing between the bases so smoothly.
He's trying, but God, that thing just will not die. The Mutas had one job, Nate. One job, one time, and they couldn't get it done. Prisms on the north and south cannot be dealt with just Hydras alone because they need to be here to get damage done to Neeb. That Stasis Ward locks in 2 of the Hydras. This one catches 1 Roach, no big deal. But look at this army of Neeb. That is scary as hell.
What do you have to deal with the High Templar? We have not seen him actually get Banelings. 11 are finally being made, but are 11 Banelings going to kill all the High Templars so that he can't storm the Hydras? I highly doubt it. He's getting right on top of this army. He force fields off the left chunk, drops the storm up top. Snoot's army being fought 1/2 at a time, and as those storms are dropped, he immediately goes to the Archon merge, not wasting any time. Neeb obliterating Snoot's army.
Yeah, this immortal count is just too high for Snoot to deal with. This attack went very badly with the charge lot reinforcement. There's no way Snoot wins this one. GG. And Neeb takes a 2-0.
Appropriate sign I see. The nerf Neeb, please. Can this man be stopped? We're loaded in to game number 3 in the top left. The blue Protoss player representing the USA. He's Neeb.
And in the bottom right, from Team Liquid, send him your energy. He needs it. This is Snooze.
And Snoot, he's a smart guy. You talk to him, he takes a very methodical approach to the game. That's why he likes to play the long game. That's why he likes to draw things out. We've seen him do it time and time again, Maynard. Well, you have to be wondering what's going on in his mind right now when he says to himself, look, I've definitely come across an opponent who is executing far too well for me to rely on him making a mistake. I need to really do something exceptional if I'm going to beat this guy who's already smacked me twice in a row.
Snoot instantly taking the 3rd base location as he's natural. He doesn't even want to do this dance with the probe. And the probe knows that if it's not going to be taken immediately, he can pile and block it for a little bit. He cancels it though and just goes on over to the 3rd base to make sure that it's going down, and then we'll head home shortly. So it looks like Snoot's, you were wondering what he's up to. It looks like a bit of greed from him. He's going to get a quick 3 hatchery because leaving that natural open for too long is going to be no bueno.
Yeah, that probe is still there though. Neeb is waiting. He wants to make sure. You don't see too much of the crazy trickery here, as you don't really have any of those gold bases to jump to on Abyssal Reef. Well, what's Neeb gonna do? Probably, honestly, do we expect him to do anything other than Stargate build? I mean, the thing is, like 6 months ago, we'd have been like, oh yeah, he does these Twilight Council builds, he's really good at these fast adept plays, but Stargate seems to be like just this rock solid opening that Neeb's had.
Yeah, I remember in like 7 or 8 gate, like adept with resonating glaives, that sort of thing.
Neeb.
Ye old Neeb. But times are changing. It's all about that Stargate. Cyber core is done. We got about 150 gas for Neeb, and let's see it get dropped. Does it happen? Come on, Neeb. You got something new for us, buddy?
Interested to see if he does try anything else. He needs a little bit more gas where he can do that. The only other interesting thing to keep in mind, and it is a Twilight Council, so perhaps we're going to see that big adept play. The only other thing that I wanted to point out was Snoot, if he wants to take advantage of something, we saw the only player that Neeb actually went for a fast mothership core against was Scarlet, because you can see that he very clearly respected her ability to get aggressive early on, and the reason why Snoot was able to get the damage in on the game number 1 was because there was no mothership core, so it's something to keep in mind. But I'm already getting this vibe, Maynard, from the way that this is starting off. We see that fast resonating glaives, a warp prism, and Neeb just brings the Adept train out of his first victory in WCS Austin this year.
Yeah, could be seeing it again for sure. Of course, it could be DTs again, or rather Archon drop again, potentially.
Yeah, all the standard options are definitely
a lot of them are still available. There's that Dark Shrine, so it is going to be Archon drop. But it's nice to see a new opening here from Neeb. Archon drop, of course, went very, very well for him last game. Snute getting into the natural, looking for the main base. He is going to get a scout here with the Lings.
And he'll come in, he'll be able to see the Dark Shrine. He sees everything that he needs to know about the build order of his opponent. The question now becomes, how will Snute react? How will he be able to deal with this? A difficult part of playing against Neeb as he gets a couple of these probe kills is that Neeb has so much range. You can't just pick a build and be like, this will be safe against Stargate, because he doesn't have to go Stargate. He can do this Dark Templar into Archon drop. He can bring the pain with the depths. You have to constantly be wary of which tech choice Neeb's going to make.
And Snoot's going to react to this by going for Roaches, and he did that last game, and honestly, the Roaches went really well for him. He dealt very well with the Archon drop when the Roaches were at home. It was when he wasn't home when Neeb was tearing him apart with those charge lot warp ins. He had charge a lot quicker than you normally see, and he had the Archon drops pulling Snoot back and forth, tearing him apart, making him thin out his forces. So we will see if it happens again. It's a little bit easier to get between the third and the main and that sort of thing here on Abyssal Reef, but not hugely. He is dropping Spore Crawlers, of course, because he's a smart Zerg. That's going to help out a fair bit against the War Prism.
Most of the time, it is just the Archons that are what you're fighting against, but for that first brief moment, there is a chance those Dark Templar come in without making that merge and get a lot of damage done. So here the DTs do get warped in. We may try to do a quick comprod, or he might just immediately merge them together. We'll have to see. The Adept want to help him get this third up, but the Ling counter shuts it down. Not bad.
Yeah, just sitting in the DTs here. The Spores, of course, are already
got
here.
Got feet play. He's going to try to focus the Spore Crawler.
And, of course, Snute doesn't have Lair yet, so he has no mobile detection. The Natural is in trouble here. Queen gets shredded up.
Wow, so Neeb loses one of his Dark Templar while his Lings counterattack. His base pylon's being warped in. It looks like he'll be able to at least pick off this natural expansion, but he needs to protect himself back home. What is he going to use? Is he going to add another Dark Templar here so that he can make the two Archons?
Well, Cybercore is, these are some nice pickoffs for both players, but Neeb on 2 base is a lot stronger than Zerg on 2 base, especially considering the third is so far away from the main. A drill in here, he's going to lose the Queen.
No.
He's trying to keep the Spores alive and get the Roaches up here.
But it's DTs versus drones, Maynard. That's not a fight that you want to take. 11 of them have been knocked down, and Neeb starting to really get a fast break here off on this game in terms of the supply, in terms of the tech, setting himself up so damn well.
And it's Archon time, Nathanius. Meanwhile, Snute has already lost a lot of his defense and infrastructure. A lot of the Queen's been taken out. A lot of the drones have died. And he doesn't have the natural. He doesn't have creep connected between the main and his natural, which is so far away. It's going to be so tough to defend against this.
Yep, the Archons will be able to move around very easily between these bases until road speed is done, especially. They're just looking to focus down drones. Yep, I'll get on top. Utilize that splash damage. There's not a huge bulk of roaches here. Considering that he killed the Queens there, too, the mobility in terms of anti-air is severely lacking for Snute. He really just wants to kill the Queens, too, because then he can just fly that War Prism around all day long. Might grab a couple of these drones as they spawn, and he does. There's the pickup. And then once he comes to this hatchery, Queen's going to have a really hard time running around this base.
And these Roaches are hurt as well, so Neeb could easily pick them off. The Lings not finding any work done on the other side of the map. Have to come home to help out against the Archons. What else are they going to do? Neeb's locked down tight, and his third Nexus is certainly going to get up here. Oh, man. Snute against the ropes. I don't see a response here that he can do at this stage of the game. He needs to just not take damage for a while and sit back at home, but that gives Neeb the space to get that big death ball going.
Neeb just looks completely unshakable. He held the counterattack. He's got the advantage in terms of the workers. He's got his upgrades coming in. Charge is about to finish. The Immortal transition's begun. And the original War Prism that started a lot of this madness is still here, constantly threatening. Without that creep spread, how are your Hydras ever going to get into a position where they can actually defend against it?
Look at the resources lost here. Yes, we see a lot of expensive units for the Protoss, but look at the number of minerals that Snute has lost in army, drones, and Queens. Pretty insane here.
Yep, he's going into the main base once again and gets it. He's got to be so careful. Of course, the Hydras are very close to that Prism. Neeb, things are looking good for you, buddy. Don't throw it all down the drain. Oh, the Hydras! They're hanging out the side of the cliff. He's like, please, come on, man. I'm so close.
Yeah, he's got to give him a little bit of space.
He's talking to the Roach. He's like, Roach, hold me, man. I'll just lean off the edge. We're barely getting range. Almost gets the shields.
Yeah, not quite.
And there's the Templar Archives. So that Storm follow-up will also come into play.
And he's going to start making Immortals as well. We'll probably be seeing a second robotics facility soon from Neeb to make sure the Immortal count gets up as quickly as possible, as that is the way to deal with this very popular army composition that Snoot's once again showing us here. Neeb going to try and secure the 4th Nexus. Snoot, if he can deny this, if he can cancel the 4th Nexus, he's got a shot.
Yeah, he needs to get something done, and he needs to get it done now, but there's so many Archons, so many Immortals, Force Fields, Guardian Shield available. He parses the Roaches away from the Hydralisk. He can get through a lot of the tanking forces in this army and then make his way to that soft Hydra underbelly. Grabs a few more, just slowly advancing through the choke point he's created. The choke point that Snoot walked through willingly. Even DTs mixed into the armies too much. GG, Neeb goes up 3-0 against Snoot. Yeah.
All right, here we go. The man in question. Is he gonna clean sweep here? This, at the bottom left, is the American Protoss, Neeb! And in the top right, he's on his last lifeline. Give him energy, Montreal! This is Team Liquid Snoot!
So Mech Depot, potentially the final map in this grand final, as Neeb has shown a dominating performance not only this year, not only in this tournament, but in this best of 7 as well. And Snoot, a storied player, a true legend in StarCraft 2 history himself. On the ropes against this young whippersnapper who's come up in the last year and a half, a guy who struggled against players like Polton Hydra and then eventually decisively defeated them too last year before making his own way to becoming a legend. And now he has been the hottest thing this year in foreign StarCraft. Neeb doing so well, looking amazing as we gear up for the global playoffs at the end of the year coming to BlizzCon.
Now, Mech Depot is a kind of map where if Snoot was going to win one, this is one of them. This is a good map for Zerg against Protoss and Terran. I like the way that the map is set out for the way that a Zerg can spread out. They can knock down the rocks in the middle of the map. If it gets to that point, they have a third that naturally expands away from the Protoss, whereas the Protoss are going to find it more and more difficult to defend their expansions as they move out on the map here. That's a pretty wide ramp. That's space for the Zerg to get those wraparounds, to get those big concaves with their Hydralisk, with their Banelings, with whatever. So it is a good map and a good battlefield for Snoot to at least get a map on the board here. We're hoping that this is not the final battleground in this final.
Of course, that is going to be all up to Snoot, as Neeb has shown no signs of slowing down today. This tournament has been a lot of very, very decisive plays. You know, one of the things that we used to talk about when we would see Neeb get up to these finals, and you could feel the nerves coming in. You know, it's a misplaced zealot in the wall here. It's a pylon block. Something goes wrong. Your Oracle goes a little bit too far forward. You get hit with that early fungal. But that has not been what we've seen from Neeb. The only reason why his Adept wasn't in position was because he was kind of moving it around, doing something with it. It wasn't just absentmindedly left somewhere. And he has been playing very sharp this weekend as he goes for a Twilight Council again. So it could just be with that Robo follow-up with the Dark Shrine, do another Archon drop. Or maybe we'll see that Templar Archives opening again. Or maybe we'll see that Resonating Cleaves. You can never be 100% sure when you're going up against Neeb, this Overlord.
Wow, that's triggering. It's
like, you know you're going to get it. But it's like, man, if I don't go fast enough, like,
get him.
It's like, this really shouldn't get away from you.
Splat. Got him. And that's a nice pick up to get that
first. A lot of people in the crowd just sighed at that one. It's like, woof.
I mean, that's you know, to be honest, that's a really nice pick off. The first scouting Overlord picking off really delays things for the Zerg. It upsets the momentum. Picking off Overlords in the late game, not as big a deal. Early game, absolutely.
And now he has no way of knowing what Neeb is up to. It's like, well, is there a Dark Shrine in there? Is it a Templar Archives? Is it a Stargate? I don't really know, because you've done all of the above so far in this series. Neeb's done a different build every single game, and Snoot cannot just say, this is what I'm up against, this is what I need to do. It's, first I got to figure it out, and then I'm like, well, I only played against this strategy once in this series, so how much adapting is there to do? How much can I change in my strategy when I find out so late what it is that you're doing? And this Stalker, very diligent. Snoot still can't get in.
Yeah, I mean, the Stalker is patrolling the edge of one of the largest mains I've ever seen in StarCraft 2 history. So the Overlord, if it dives in to look at the tech, which is on the very far left of this main, by the way, needs to go through a stutter step Stalker the whole way. He may not even make it before it dies.
Yep, because he already lost the first Overlord that went across. If he loses another, that really hurts just his ramp up.
Yeah, it's devastating.
He can't just be chucking away Overlords left and right, even with the speed upgrade, because that Stalker, because this base, this map, your main base is so huge. You have a lot of room that you can use to hide those things, which allows the Stalker to keep the Overlord from getting close.
The one thing I like from Snute is that he's mostly going blind into a lair and Baneling nest here.
Yeah,
which
you
is
got
going
to assume that it would have been
Yeah.
Oracles or DTs, right?
Yeah, and both are good against both. He's getting an Overseer quickly as possible for these DTs.
Spore's not here
Spore's
yet.
not done yet. Is he going to be able to get us around on it?
He could kill quite a bit of what is here. He could try to deny the Spore, at least kill the Queen, give himself the ability to play around with this Warp Prism a little bit more by denying the anti-air. And look at this. Just the DT. Pick up micro versus the Lings. He's like, yeah, you want to eat through the DT shields? That's fine. These bad boys one-shot everything you got. Let's do it. Oh, working to the Archons. That's a little bit close. A lot of the shield's going to be drained. He's going to kill the one on the right side. He gets one, and the Queen's going to body block for the other. The Archon. Ooh.
Oh, man. One Archon lives, but that is a great hold there for Snute. And that Archon already needs to regenerate shields. This Prism way too low to get anywhere near the Zerg's Bane. So Snute with a pretty solid start here. Delaying the third Nexus. There is no choice of third on this map. Neeb has to expand towards the Zerg, which is very, very uncomfortable.
A bold move with the positioning of this Nexus.
Yeah.
But he's going into charges of follow-up, and the thing is, Neeb remains, he's still got his resolve. He's like, okay, I'll have to find a different way to do this. You don't want to build 2 more Dark Templar just to get that Archon at this stage of the game. It's so expensive. You need to get the Immortals, you need to get charged, get ready to go towards that charge lot setup. But let's see what he can get done with just a single Archon. He's still 2-shotting drones. Maybe he'll can add something else with this to supplement. But as you pointed out earlier, the Warp Prism, it restores its shields. It does not restore its health.
No, it does
very,
not.
very vulnerable.
And there are already Hydralisks on the field here for Snute. They're going to probably come up and help out this one Queen. Ling's coming up here. There's the Hydralisk. The Queen's coming in here as well. There's not creep spread here to the edge of the main, but Snute's going to fix that to make sure this doesn't happen again.
It's a 50 hit point dropship there. You need to be very cautious with how Neeb moves that Prism Mothership Core going a little bit out of right field. But the third base is finishing up. A lot of Zealots are being added to this army. And with the Hydralisk Muscular Augment upgrade completing, we'll have to see what will Snute's play be. Because he was able to really smash down this early harass, he's set up so much better than he was last game for this mid-phase.
The Overlord relieving itself on this 4th base location of Neeb. That's not going to happen for a little while here. Neeb doesn't have a ton of anti-air, but, you know, these sentries could tickle, but they're mainly here for the force fields, which we should be seeing going down here if he wants to catch these Lings.
Something else worth mentioning, great force fields to move these Lings in. Something else worth mentioning is the Hydras can use the high ground to hit the probes on that third base if he chooses to use that position, but cleaning up the Lings is going to make that more and more difficult.
Ooh.
The Warp Prism's still on the map, so he's saying, hey man, you can't just come over to my base and try to fight me. I'm going to keep you on your toes at all times.
Snute's knocked down these rocks, which is going to be a headache for Neeb as this game continues. He can attack from 2 easy paths here. Banelings in tow, but the sentries are near the mineral line. They can force field them away.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to see that. He sees the Banelings being morphed very closely. Archons are just going to step forward. They're like, all right, boys, we'll be the blockers. Getting straight in there. The Zealots want to fight while the lowest amount of Banelings are on the field, and so they shall.
The Banelings morph and the Zealots are largely gone. Is there enough Hydralisks here from Snute, though? Oh, man, these Immortals are helping so much.
Oh, the Prism brings the other Archon back.
Oh, no. Snute's actually in trouble already. This charge light warp in is very, very deadly to deal with.
And he's going to mop him up on this east side of the field as Neeb crosses the 50-yard line. Will he continue to push forward and bring another wave of Zealots, or is he going to fall back, recuperate his losses? Ooh. He's going to add in another couple of Archons, it looks like.
Man, I'm so worried for Snute here. He doesn't have that much army supply. He doesn't have a whole lot of static defense here. Look at that army. He has a lot of it on the way. He has a low econ as well. Oh, he needs to clean this up extremely well, but how does he do it? Neeb is so good with his force fields, so good with his control.
Look at this micro, pulls the Zealots back, waits for the Banelings to die, and then gets right back up in his face once more. That Prism that was so low on health still alive, and Neeb is looking to get a victory march going here in game number 4.
He's taking it easy here. There it is! GG! Snute with not